It is 6:47 in the morning in Bend, Oregon. Dale Hutchins, 71 years old, retired postal worker, walks out to his garden in work boots and a flannel shirt. No gloves, no back brace, no warm-up routine. He loops a rope over a weathered fence post, ties one end to a 94-pound bag of topsoil sitting flat on the ground, and hooks the other end to a cinder block he found behind his barn years ago. Then he lifts, smooth, controlled, almost casual, twice, before breakfast. The pole he uses is nothing more than a 6-foot length of Douglas fir he cut from a fallen branch. That is the entire machine. No motor, no hydraulics, no $400 hand truck from a hardware store. Now, think about that for a second. A 71-year-old man is moving weight that would send most people his age straight to a surgeon, and he is doing it with geometry, not strength, not youth, geometry. Here's where it gets interesting. The average American landowner over 60 who blows out a knee or herniates a disc lifting something heavy off the ground spends between $4,200 and $6,800 on the recovery, surgery co-pays, physical therapy sessions, lost work. Every single dollar of it preventable. And the solution? The exact mechanical principle Dale is using on that gravel path in Bend was not invented in a sports medicine clinic. It was carved into stone walls and practiced in training yards in Sparta, roughly 2,500 years ago. The Spartan elders did not lift with their muscles. They lifted with geometry. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Geometry does not age. Your lever arm at 71 is exactly as effective as it was at 31. Now, if you are sitting there thinking this is a clever trick that only works in perfect conditions, flat ground, the right post, the right rope, stay with me. Because what Dale built behind his barn cost him exactly $0, and it works on the same uneven Oregon dirt he has walked on for 20 years. What you are actually watching when Dale lifts is a Class 1 lever system. The fulcrum is the fence post, the load is the topsoil bag, and the counterweight shifts the effort so his posterior chain, his glutes and hamstrings, bear the work instead of his knee cartilage. Modern fitness culture told you to squat deeper, brace harder, and build a stronger core. And that advice has put more people over 60 on an operating table than any single piece of bad equipment ever did. What comes next is going to show you exactly why and what the Spartans understood that your gym trainer never learned. It was a beautiful lie, packaged in chrome dumbbells and motivational posters. The message was simple. If your knees hurt when you lift, you are not strong enough yet. Build more muscle. Hire a coach, buy the brace. Dale Hutchins, 71 years old in Bend, Oregon, told me he spent 8 months believing that. He bought a $62 compression sleeve and booked 6 sessions with a personal trainer before he realized the pain was not a muscle problem at all. It was an angle problem. Across this country, millions of people over 60 are paying for the same misdiagnosis. Take a slow breath and listen to these numbers. One city at a time. In Portland, Maine, the average senior carries $2,460 per year in physical therapy, co-pays for load-bearing injuries. In Nashville, Tennessee, that figure sits at $1,340. In Columbus, Ohio, it climbs to $2,190. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, it drops to $980. In Burlington, Vermont, it reaches $2,710. Every single one of those dollars is paying for a symptom, not the cause. The cause has never been weakness. Every joint injury from lifting is a geometry failure, and geometry is always correctable for free. Here is where it gets interesting. Think about your body as a simple seesaw. Your hip joint is the fulcrum, the fixed pivot. Your leg bones form the long arm reaching back. The object you were lifting sits on the short arm out front. Tilt your torso forward to the right angle, and that arrangement multiplies your effective lifting force by a factor of 3 without adding a single pound of muscle. Now, think about that for a second. A 94-pound feed bag does not feel like 94 pounds when geometry is doing 2/3 of the lifting. Your glutes and hamstrings, the largest, most durable muscles in your body, absorb the load instead of your knee cartilage, which was never designed to compress under that kind of downward shear. And somewhere in Knoxville, Tennessee, a 63-year-old retired schoolteacher named Margaret Tolliver already knows this. She was spending $180 every single month on chiropractic visits for chronic lower back strain. Feed bags on her half-acre property were quietly dismantling her spine. Over 2 weekends, Margaret built a 3-post counterweight gantry system for $47 in materials, hardware store rope, salvage timber, a pair of carabiners. That is it. She has not booked a chiropractic appointment in 14 months. What Margaret discovered, and what the Greek and Roman builders understood 25 centuries before any gym opened its doors, is that your spine's worst enemy is not the weight in front of you. It is the angle your back makes relative to the load at the moment of lift. It changed the angle, and you change everything. In a moment, I am going to show you how Spartan elders moved stones as heavy as a pickup truck, not with stronger bodies, but with smarter angles applied through tools that cost nothing to build and nothing to maintain. And the diagram fits in your coat pocket. The orthopedic device market in the United States pulls in over $56 billion per year. Every brace, every implant, every titanium joint replacement, all of it structurally dependent on a population that keeps hurting itself the same way, year after year. Stack the physical therapy industry on top of that, another $47 billion annually. And you are looking at over $103 billion per year, riding on the assumption that moving heavy things safely requires professional intervention, not physics, not a fence post. Professional intervention. Now, think about what happened in 1973. Biomechanics researchers were just beginning to formally document how posterior chain lever principles reduced joint stress. That same year, national physical education curriculum standards were revised and distributed to schools across the country. And lever-based load transfer was left out entirely. What replaced it was a phrase, 6 words. Lift with your legs, not your back. That was the whole lesson. No fulcrum point, no force ratio, no mechanical model a child could actually use. Just 6 words that taught an entire generation precisely nothing usable. They did not need to ban the solution. They only needed to leave it out. One omission, distributed nationally, and within a decade, an entire generation had no usable mental model for safe load transfer. The knowledge did not disappear. It was simply never handed over. Raymond Kosowski knows exactly what that omission cost him. Raymond is 68, a semi-retired farmer outside Eau Claire, Wisconsin, who spent years hauling 80-pound grain sacks the only way he had ever been taught. He was averaging $210 per month, $2,520 every single year, in chiropractic and pain management visits just to keep working. One Saturday afternoon, Raymond built a counterweighted pole lift rig using materials he sourced locally for a total out-of-pocket cost of $38. That is not a monthly figure, that is the entire build. He reports 0 lifting-related pain across the 11 months since he finished it, and the chiropractic appointment stopped completely. Now, think about that for a second. The same framework Raymond used, a fence post, a $12 length of rope, and 20 minutes of practice, is the framework the curriculum revision of 1973 decided you did not need to know. The Spartans had been using a version of that rig for 25 centuries before Raymond was born. Here is where it gets interesting. Dale Hutchins, 71 years old, out in Bend, Oregon, built his own version for a total cost of $0, using materials already on his property. That is the number the orthopedic industry has no answer for. $0. No invoice, no follow-up appointment, no recurring cost of any kind. The entire physics framework comes down to 3 things the Spartans understood and the 1973 curriculum buried. The post provides the pivot, the rope transfers the force, and the counterweight neutralizes the strain. That is the complete system. Those 3 principles are what $103 billion per year depends on you never connecting. When I went back and read the classical Greek agricultural texts, and I did, everyone I could find, what I discovered about the specific rig Spartan elders built in their own fields rewrote everything I thought I understood about strength, age, and what the human frame is actually capable of at 71. That 12-foot timber the Spartan elders balanced over a stone fulcrum in Laconia. It was not ceremonial. It was a daily tool, worn smooth at the pivot point from decades of use, sitting in the field the way a good shovel sits against a barn wall. River rock on one end, a rope cradle on the other, and a single man in his late 60s repositioning loads of 200 pounds or more. Not straining, not bracing, not holding his breath, just guiding. That distinction is everything. Bioarchaeologists examining skeletal remains recovered from Laconian burial sites documented something that stops you cold. Spartan elders in their 60s and 70s show markedly lower rates of lumbar vertebral compression than Roman urban laborers of the same age, men who moved comparable weight every single day, but without mechanical aid. Here is where it gets interesting. Both the Spartan Shaduf variant and the Roman crane that Vitruvius documented around 25 BCE share one non-negotiable structural rule. The spine functions as a stabilizing strut, never as the primary load-bearing column. The rope, or the timber, absorbs and redirects gravity. The vertebrae are just along for the ride. Vitruvius wrote down the exact three-rope pulley arrangement around 25 BCE, a configuration that multiplied applied force by a ratio of 5:1. That means a 160-pound man could suspend an 800-pound stone column using nothing but his own body weight and the correct geometry of 3 ropes. Now, think about that for a second. A 5:1 mechanical advantage means every single pound you apply at the rope returns 5 pounds of upward force on the load. That 800-pound column was not a feat of Roman muscle. It was a feat of Roman rope geometry. And somewhere in Bend, Oregon, a 71-year-old man named Dale Hutchins sat in his county library and read that exact description, and understood, for the first time, why a 210-pound landscape boulder had been beating him for 3 years. That weekend, he reproduced the 3-rope configuration in his own backyard, spending $0 on new materials. It moved on the first pull. What changed? Not his strength, his geometry. The Spartans did not produce strong old men by demanding more from aging bodies. They built mechanical environments that asked nothing unreasonable of the spine, and those 3 components made it possible. A pivot point that absorbs the load, a rope that transfers the direction of force, and a counterweight that neutralizes gravitational strain before it ever reaches your L4 or L5. If you want the exact mechanical blueprints, the precise 70-degree drop test calibration, and the step-by-step Spartan kinetic pendulum protocols, the complete field guide is linked below. It includes the gravity-assisted decompression postures you need after working the land, specifically to pull synovial fluid back into your L4 and L5 discs. It is called the Joint-Safe Homestead Mechanics. Keep your physical structures sovereign. Where do you live, and what does a single back injury actually cost you? In your state, in your zip code, in your body? Tell me below. Do you have an exterior wall or fence post with 6 feet of clear ground in front of it? And did your father or grandfather ever rig something clever with rope and timber that nobody ever wrote down? Because the next video covers a $12 knot system documented in a 1947 military field manual that the American Physical Therapy Association moved to suppress in 1971. And the committee that tried never published their findings. The reason they buried it is still missing from the official record.